I've been doing weekly Rick and Morty reviews.
First episode, Solar Rick. Episode 2, and they're doing a Die Hard.
Rick and Morty Season 6, Episode 3.
Season 6 of Rick and Morty, the 6th episode, You'll Eat a Raw Tomato in 2 weeks' time.
Enjoying some light Tarkovsky flicks. I am now, in fact, anti-mask. No more wearing masks.
Your cat will feed you LSD.
You can't see me.
And I guess that brings us here.
After a mid-season break, Rick and Morty is back, and it's meta than ever. Because meta kinda sounds like better. Episode 7 was great. Not top tier, but a right in Marvel nonetheless. It's entirely a jokey, logical overload that taunts you to try and keep up. It's as if you've been roofied by an episode of TV, which is very on brand for Rick and Morty. This is an episode written for the joy of the show writers, regardless of how inaccessible some of the jokes will be to the audience. And most especially, regardless of how tasty that tomato will be. Is a full-on display of how self-indulgent the show writers think they can get away with. The episode starts with a fake previously segment. Rick and Morty hilariously fall through the opening credits. The entire episode gets very meta, and don't worry, the show writers are here to signpost how much they despise being meta.
I don't like this, Rick. Yeah, you shouldn't. It's not a likable premise. I mean, it's funny when I do a little nod to the viewers.
In fact, Full Meta Jackrick is essentially a sequel to the Story Train episode from Season 4, which I uphold is a Season 4 highlight. Storylord returns, and the writer of the Story Train episode is even a character here. Full Metal Jackrick is a deconstruction of the Rick and Morty storytelling form, and it continues to escalate into more absurd territory with humorous critiques and ridiculous puns of writing concepts.
But his name is Brett Kahn, and Brett's a name too. His name could be Rhett Kahn.
It is, and always has been.
Eventually the episode peaks with a Dan Harmon-like figure finding them. This is of course Joseph Campbell, famous for popularizing and observing that narrative very often follows the convention of a hero's journey. He structured that idea and put this common myth into words on paper. However, I must make it clear, Joseph Campbell is not famous for canned, tasty tomato soup. He's pretty much Dan Harmon's biggest inspiration. It's where his famous story circle comes from, and it is a really funny joke and escalation that probably less than a third of the audience will understand. Because why not? This is Rick and Morty, fuck you. Let's compare Full Meta Jackrick to Story Train, which had funny subtle nods to storytelling tropes throughout.
Of course, this thing is just a fucking circle. You'd think it was so goddamn complicated.
Would you put ticking
Because if it's too easy to get there, we'll never get there. If you don't want to be meta, stop deconstructing shit.
Baited audience expectations of canon in the best way, and eventually peaked at escalating the story into a message about the Bible and Christianity.
Fill me with your spirit. Make me a shining city on a hill
No!
for you.
No!
Make me born again.
A joke far more accessible than Joseph Campbell showing up. I do get a certain glee at the image of a writer being forced to smother their story with merchandise. That is a beautiful meta conclusion to end on.
I mean, look, live action doesn't move as much merchandise, but...
Plus, the final joke is just the perfect laugh out loud cherry tomato on top.
So it's like a magic pencil that writes the writer's life. Holy shit, it's a movie about a writer! I am back!
Overall, I prefer my Rick and Morty with a little bit more character stakes. This certainly isn't a bad episode and tracks with Season 6 being a really good return to consistent form for the show. As the anthology weird episode of the season, this is a perfect mix-up of the format where the writers continue to one-up themselves with subverting storytelling conventions.
I'll be less inside baseball. Maybe I change my name?
I'd like to see Justin Roiland's voice utilized less for annoying side characters. I think we've had enough of that 6 seasons in. With everything said, this is a solid, funny episode that rewards repeat viewings. Everything I'd want from an average episode of Rick and Morty. 7 out of 10.
Bah!
Don't forget to click below to subscribe.
You can't see me.